If it feels like Donald Trump is trying to rig the midterm elections, it's probably because Donald Trump is trying to rig the midterm elections.
As far as married women who have changed their name, if they're already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected by the SAVE Act. And for the small fraction of individuals who have changed their name or their address, they can still register to vote, of course. They just have to go through their state processes to update that documentation. And this is something that the American people, married women, and minorities, and people all across this country who Democrats are insultingly saying cannot do this, they're already doing it every day, going to the Social Security office, going to the DMV, and I think it's frankly insulting that the Democrats are saying that there are certain groups of people in this country who aren't smart enough to update their documentation to allow them to vote.
Is Senator Thune listening to you when you say you want to pass the Save America Act? He says there aren't the votes to do it right now. What's your response?
Well, he's got to be a leader, you know? If he's a leader, he's got to get him. It's the most popular bill I've ever seen put before Congress. And it's voter ID and it's voter. You have to be able to be a citizen to vote. It's called citizenship. And we're also adding in no men playing in women's sports, no transgender mutilization of our children, and no mail-in ballots, fake mail-in ballots. We have none of that, except in the case of the military, etc.
Well, it's very easy to be against the Save America Act. Lisa Murkowski and Tom Tillis are against the Save America Act, and it sounds like, to some degree, Joey Jones actually is in the way that it's being represented right now. And Dana is right that Republicans should take what I would say a quasi-W, I guess, what they'll get out of this win when they have the vote on it and move on to other things, because this thing is absolutely dead in the water. And Joey was the only one who actually used the correct term in talking about how this was a proof of citizenship bill, not a voter ID bill. If it was a voter ID bill, I think you could get a lot of Democrats to talk to you about it. Jim Clyburn has been out there saying he's for it. But when you talk about proof of citizenship, that comes one of two ways. So first, a passport, which only 50% of Americans have. It costs $165 to get a passport. And it's a majority of Democrats who have it, not Republicans. Then you go to the birth certificate. I'm glad you had them in your house. I can say from my own experience, and I live very close to my mother, when I went to get my real ID, I'm someone who has two middle names. I haven't even changed my last name when I got married. I had to go back. I had to leave 2 times and come back to have the right identification to be able to get my real ID, because some of my IDs said Jessica Brooke Tarlov, some said Jessica Brooke Roberts Tarlov, some just said Jessica Tarlov, and that wasn't good enough.
That's a great story.
Well, it's the real experience. That's cute.
But I know,
Fred,
but the point is
it's not. And I didn't interrupt you.
That's the problem with
even
bureaucracy.
Fine.
Who runs that?
So doge it, but also doge this bill. There is an opportunity for Democrats to get out there and to own this in their own way, to say this is what a real voter ID bill should look like, where you accept a number of different kinds of IDs, where tribal IDs count, because the way that the Save America Act is formulated, you need a tribal ID that actually has a date on it, and majority of them don't. Then you say we're for automatic voter registration, and that also that Election Day is a national holiday, because you want to make it easier for people to vote, not harder.
Now you have
There
ideas.
are some on it. We've always had that idea. No. Again, why are you interrupting me? I let you
Because it's
talk.
fun. Because
Okay.
you act like somehow
I act like somebody that knows what the Save America Act actually says and what it would require and who it would disenfranchise. Young people, old people, married people.
It's not
if you are
disenfranchising
adopted,
anybody.
Really, if you cannot get yourself registered to vote because you don't have a passport, give everyone $165. Go door to door. You get $165. You get $165. Or if you change your name, you were in the adoption system. You were in foster care.
It was
guys.
funny.
All right.
If your 45-47 joke was funny, that was hilarious.
That was legitimately very funny.
Director Patel, how many non-citizens have been convicted of voting in U.S. elections in the last 10 years?
The conviction stats are with the Department of Justice. I defer to them on that.
You are the director of the FBI. Give me a guess. How many convictions in the last 1 year, 5 year, or 10 years? Ballpark.
I don't have that with me, sir. Again, it's with the department.
You don't have that with, okay. Director Patel, how many active investigations does the FBI have into foreign individuals voting in U.S. elections?
We have a number of investigations, generally speaking, ongoing about individuals across the country.
Yeah, I'm asking for that number.
I don't have that number with me, but I have a number of them.
You have a number of investigations. Okay, is that number 10,000? Is it closer to 10,000 or closer to 10?
It's probably somewhere in between.
Okay, will you please provide the committee with that number?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Director Patel, since you don't have the numbers, would it surprise you to know that the Heritage Foundation, which is not exactly the Columbia University Faculty Lounge, found only 77 instances of non-citizen voting in the 24 years between 1999 and 2023, each of which faced investigation by the appropriate authorities. So Heritage has a number of 77 examples in 24 years. Does that number surprise you?
No, because it's low.
I don't understand your answer.
You asked me if I was
Are you
surprised by that
disputing?
number.
Are you
I'm not.
disputing that the number is in the range of 77 examples of non-U.S. citizens voting in U.S. elections in a 24-year period?
I just said that number's low.
You think that number is low? Okay. So why, if this is a meaningful issue, do we have no, and I guess I direct this to Director Gabbard, why is there no mention of this thing that will grind the American government to a halt for a 2-week period in the worldwide threats analysis?
This annual threat assessment was shaped around the national security strategy's prioritization of threats to our nation and our nation's interests. There are multiple platforms and venues where there have been and there will be reporting on threats to our foreign threats to our elections.
So I don't understand how it could disenfranchise millions of Americans, and maybe he would explain.
I'm happy to. Thank you for that question, because I think all of us should be aware of the fact of what is required by this act when it comes to registering to vote. You have to present identification, correct? But your driver's license, which most people use in the course of business every single day, is not acceptable. What is acceptable is a passport. 50% of Americans do not have a passport. Those who want to obtain it so they can vote will pay $186 and wait 3 or 4 weeks for that to happen. Secondly, you can use a birth certificate. But any person who has changed their name as a result of a marriage or a hyphenated relationship has to find not only their birth certificate, but some correction of it to prove that they're eligible to register to vote. It's estimated that 9% of the voters in America do not have the identification required by this bill. It means ultimately that those people will not be voting. And I think that is the ultimate goal of this administration.
One last question. Those are all matters that could be addressed by amendments to the bill itself if we get on the bill, correct?
When's the last time we amended a bill?
I added 2 more. These are best of, best of. These are called best of Trump. We should also add on to this bill. And so what I've asked Mike to do is to draw a new one with these few things added, and let's go for the gold. Let's not just get one like voter ID, but, it can be given to you by your daughter. Your daughter, she has to be of age, like above 6 years old, she's allowed to say. You had to see some of this stuff is so bad. They're doing everything possible because they know if we get this, they probably won't win an election for 50 years, okay? And maybe longer. They don't talk about anything. That's what they talk about. And if you send it up that you're going to win the midterms at levels that you can't even believe, and you're going to win every election for a long time until somebody really screws things up, and hopefully that won't happen.
Republicans have been trying to pass voter ID laws for years, but the Save America Act is somehow even worse than its predecessors. Non-citizens have never been able to vote. When a person registers to vote, their citizenship status, residence, and other demographic information is verified prior to them actually being added to the voter rolls. The Save America Act, just like Trump's threats to have armed guards and ICE patrols at the polls, represent nothing more than a blatant attempt to disenfranchise Americans. The people voting for this legislation know this.